It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin. And somehow we have reached the end of the road for 2025. The final episode of season 3 of Camp Dynasty, our last chance, Collin, to speak about our 2025 group of campers.
Yeah, we won't talk about these guys again until all grown up, which feels insane since it's only, it's May, but it's also halfway through the year, and we're less than 100 days from kicking off the NFL season. College football 26 just got announced. We're starting to generate a little buzz for this next season. Unfortunately, no 26 guys gracing the covers with Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith, much deserved though. So we're reminiscing about this 2025 class before we dive headfirst into the 2026 class. Most people have done their dynasty rookie drafts on the heels of the NFL draft. And so they're starting to move on, starting to think about what these guys will actually do now that they're on NFL teams, now that they're not just a figment of their imagination. And 101 in their pick cupboard is now actually Ashton Jeanty in the running back slot on their team.
Yeah, I love how all of that conversation that we had during the season last year about 26 versus 27 and then the next college football games just like, yeah, we don't care about 26. Like we're going straight to these freshman phenoms, but we'll be talking about 26 pretty soon, and I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as it's been made out to be, but we'll find that out in a couple weeks. For right now, yes, the dynasty draft season we are in the midst of it. I know a lot of leagues, like you said, have done their draft already. People love to get it in as soon as the NFL draft finishes up. We are not one of those leagues. We have not drafted yet, so we are drafting in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure there's plenty of other leagues out there that are drafting either in the coming weeks or even deeper into the summer. So it is dynasty draft season for the 2025 class. We are not just abandoning all thought and care about these players. Of course, there is the oncoming NFL season to talk about, which we will do at that time. But for the rest of the summer, we will be moved on from this group of players, and our attention will be fully focused on what is coming in the 2026 Dynasty rookie class. So, with that said, this is our final moment to speak about the 2025 campers, to throw out our final takes regarding this class. Anything that we haven't, fully gotten off our chests by this point, now is the time. And last year, it's Memorial Day weekend, so we thought, hey, let's fire up the grill. We're going to put these takes on the grill and fry them up, and we're going to do about 10 of those today. So we're a little bit after Memorial Day this year because you and I were together on Memorial Day this year. So so that was worth it. But yeah, we're just a little bit late to the party now, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully this, the stuff we throw on the grill can rival. We went and got some like Mexican food. We got some lattes. We had some Filipino like snacks. Like we were all over the board, and it was all incredible. Hopefully some of these takes that we put on the grill can rival anything close to that kind of stuff because we were eating good on Memorial Day.
We sure were. It was a blast, and this is going to be a blast today. This is 10 takes, probably a little bit of reminiscing, a little bit of going down memory lane here. We're going to try to hit a bunch of guys and, remember the journey that was season 3 of Camp Dynasty. So I will turn it over to you to give your first freshly grilled take.
Yeah, and maybe the takes will get hot when they're on the grill. We'll see.
We'll see. They're
Everybody
not
likes their
necessarily intended to be hot takes, just to be
everybody
clear.
likes their steak cooked at a different temperature.
Yes.
And so maybe it'll be hot, maybe it won't. These are some predictions, some takes. We'll see. I have to start Man of the Year, 101, Mr. 101, Ashton Jeanty. And I have him finishing as a top 5 running back overall in his rookie season. So this comes with a lot because last year the top 5 running backs in half PPR are Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs. So for fantasy points, that's like the 300-point club. That's the top tier, the top 5. Everybody, the next tier down is like the next guy is like 247 points. I can't think of who it was off the top of my head, but I think Jeanty joins that 300-point club, and to do that, it would just be because he's a volume workhorse back in the Raiders' backfield, and he has essentially no contest in that backfield. Nobody's going to take snaps away from him. They drafted him extremely high. They're obviously very excited about him. Pete Carroll comes in. He's been known to establish the run first before developing or going into a passing game. And the additions outside of coaching that they've made, Geno Smith and Alex Kappa, the guard, 2 other offensive linemen in the draft. They're obviously trying to overhaul this roster to be run first because they also didn't address the wide receiver room or the tight end room basically at all. So it's Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. It's the names that you've seen there already, but add number 2 in the backfield, Ashton Jeanty. The way he would get there, because to get to that 300-point club, you need to have about 1,600 rushing yards. You need to have 16 touchdowns. So that's 5.3 yards per carry on 300 carries. And you're like, okay, what does that really mean? Well, the players that had 300 carries last year, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, and Kyren Williams. So those are like the guys you might think of when you think of, 1A backs in backfields that are leading the backfield. The guy that you didn't hear that still ended up in that upper echelon, Jahmyr Gibbs, who's the premier receiving back in the league. So the Raiders running backs combined for 302 carries last year. You can expect Jeanty to surpass that number, I'd imagine, because that offense was terrible. They were getting off the field fast. They should have more plays, more drives, longer drives. I mean, scoring drives, which they haven't had. So I think that Jeanty can get there. There are lofty expectations, but when you have a player this good, he deserves to have lofty expectations.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, I think you and I tend to be pretty realistic about rookies and like tampering expectations. And sometimes you get surprised. Like you go in assuming guys will be like not worse, but less productive than they are, and they surprise you. But I'd rather go in with that frame of mind than think every single rookie that I love from college is going to come into the NFL and like be one of the best players. In this case, yeah, that's what we should expect. If Ashton Jeanty is the player that you and I both think, and obviously the Raiders thought as well, he is, then he should be that caliber of a running back immediately, because we've seen that many times before. Running backs tend to be a little bit more of it's an easier transition to the league compared to like wide receiver or especially tight end and things like that. These guys can come in and be hyper productive immediately. And also, let's not forget with Jeanty, the pass catching upside is totally here with this player as well. Like he could get there just as a runner, but he will be getting involved in the pass game. That is not something that we saw a ton of at Boise State this past season, but that's because he was a historically dominant running back. They didn't need to get him involved in the pass game because he was running through every defense in front of him and that's all it took. But 2 years ago, he was the most productive pass catching running back in college football. So he has the background that suggests he can be a running and receiving threat in the league. So I love this take. I love that we're starting with the man himself. This one right here is a little bit of a jog down memory lane to start things out, because this was supposed to be the first year at Camp Dynasty of 3 years where we didn't know 101. And that might have even gone into the draft process. And it became very clear by like week 2 that it was going to be another runaway year. And Ashton Jeanty certainly stole the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to mention that receiving work because the numbers I have here, like that 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, becomes a lot more manageable if he has like 300 receiving yards and a couple of receiving touchdowns, because then you only need like 1,400 yards. So, that balances out. Right now, he with like 1,600 rushing yards, you'd still need 150 receiving yards. Like Derrick Henry still pumps out 150, 200 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns in the air, just from like screens mostly. So I think it's pretty attainable for Jeanty.
All right, so I don't know how your takes flow, but mine kind of go from like top of the draft and downwards. So I'm also starting at the top of the draft class, but I'm starting with the other guy that has potential to break the game immediately.
Oh,
and that is Travis Hunter, of course. So a lot has been made of the, wide receiver DB eligibility.
who got married? Congratulations to Travis Hunter.
He did get married. I don't even want to click on any social media post about his marriage because I don't want to know what anybody's saying about it. Congratulations to him.
I'm sure it's all really positive.
Yeah, right. So we've had the conversation over the last few weeks, certainly, about Travis Hunter and what this all means. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a firm prediction of what I think will happen this season with Travis Hunter. And I believe that this season in 2025, Travis Hunter will finish as the DB1, but he will not, quote unquote, break the game. Okay. So the last 3 seasons, and this is, of course, dependent on scoring settings. This is one of the things that's lost with the Travis Hunter argument, is that depending on how your league scores IDP, he could be more valuable or less valuable, or somewhere in the middle of like how we've been talking about him. But under our scoring settings, which will be in the description, the last 3 DB1s overall, Budda Baker had 215 points, Antoine Winfield Jr. had 236 points, and Jalen Petrie had 215 points. So if we kind of just sit somewhere in the middle of all of that and say like 225 is going to be like a topping out point for DBs, and of course that is like, it falls off very quickly. Like those players are extremely valuable in relation to the rest of the DBs, but we're talking about breaking a category of the game. So for me, breaking this position and breaking the sport of fantasy football would mean that we're talking about a DB that's scoring like north of 250, 260, getting up into the 270s sort of stuff, where you are easily like 40, 50 points above the next guy, and potentially even more than that. And I'm kind of looking at what can we expect from Travis Hunter, the DB period. And if we assume that Travis Hunter could be comparable to a player like Derek Stingley, like let's just say that, like a number 1 lockdown corner with ball skills. Stingley had 5 picks last year. Stingley had 128 points last season, playing 100% of the time. And I don't think it's, I don't think it's controversial at this point to say that we should not expect Hunter to play 100 and 100 like he was in college. So I'm saying, let's say he plays 50% of the time on defense, which I still think could be like a high number.
Mm-hmm.
So cut that in half. He's scoring about 60 points at that point as a DB. If he scores like 180, 190 points on offense, which is
Yeah.
like a high but like reasonable
Yeah, you're talking about
expectation.
like AJ Brown, Jordan Addison last year,
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers, like that's the range.
Yeah. And that seems like reasonable, but probably like the top end of his rookie year range, I would
Yeah,
say.
that seems pretty. Yeah.
At that point, he's only scoring 240 to 250 points. So, yes, he is a weapon and an advantage, but he is only scoring potentially 20, 25 points more than the next DB. And I don't think I would call that breaking the game.
Yeah, I would agree with you. If he's not playing 100%, I think the framework that was set up is like if he's playing full time both ways, then he can break the game. And I think that that's still true because like if he is scoring 100 points on defense over the season, which would be less than Derek Stingley, who's a really good corner, and then he is scoring, putting up like Alec Pierce numbers on offense, then he's scoring 250, which is like above that like cap, and like that's still not really breaking the game, I wouldn't say, but like that's flirting with getting kind of weird because you look at guys that can score 250 points and like that's the amount of points that Amon-Ra St. Brown had last year. So like he had 266. So like if he's playing 100% of the snaps both ways, yes, it could absolutely be that like scary nuclear weapon. But what it sounds like is he's going to be playing mainly offense and part time on defense, which is kind of what we thought would happen. And then it's like less of he's a cheat code and more of okay, you're just like getting the same amount of stats, but he's a wide receiver, so it feels weird because he's in the DB spot.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm just looking at the rookie year also because we have no idea what happens beyond this point. We don't know
You've
what he's
been you've been
eligible.
kind of hammering that all season. Is like when or all off season is his rookie year, maybe he does play 50-50 or like whatever. Maybe he plays both ways, but like after he kind of feels the toll it takes on his body, I don't know. I might be putting words in your mouth, but like after a full season and like maybe coaching makes this decision for him, or maybe he makes the decision to choose a side, and then like that changes a lot for your dynasty team.
Yeah, no. I mean, to me, the reason why I keep hammering that home is that I've seen a lot of people commenting on this and saying, like, how is he not the top player in the game? Like, how is
Right.
he not a no doubt 101 potential, like 101 startup player
Right.
if he's really going to be doing something that has never been done before, which is playing both ways full time. And I think that comes with a lot of assumptions. That he's playing both sides full time, which is, a very bold assumption in and of itself. And also, what is he eligible for moving forward?
Yes.
Because we've only heard from, at least one platform in Sleeper that he will be eligible for this entire season, and after that they will reevaluate. So depending on what happens this year, anything could happen in terms of how they, if he does break the game, like do they separate him into two players, or like how does that work? So I think with all of those unknowns, that's why I keep saying, like, this is the reason why. This is the reason why, even though it seems like on the surface this could be a like sport altering player, it's not as easy as that.
Right. Yeah.
All right, give me your next take.
So I organized mine the same way. So we're just kind of rolling down ADP right now. Omarion Hampton is going to be a little bit disappointing early in the season. So this is, people always get excited about the new thing, the new toy, but Najee was like 1,000-yard runner last year. Team brought him in on a $5.5 million deal, which may seem cheap, but this is a second deal for a veteran running back that's kind of old. Like it's not a bad deal for Najee. And like, I think he's going to get a lot of run early in the season, and they're just kind of like going to ease Omarion Hampton in. Think Montgomery and Gibbs on the Lions. I don't think Najee's as good as Montgomery. I think Omarion's very different than Gibbs. That's not what I'm saying, but I think the usage could seem similar, where you're like, why isn't Hampton playing more? Like, he's obviously better than Najee. I think you defer to your like veteran, especially when he's a proven commodity like Najee is. Whether or not he's a dynamic commodity, whatever, like I'm not going to get into that. I just think like you have a guy that you can trust in the room. And so my take isn't just like, Najee's going to have a lot of carries. That's not that fun. So what I'm saying is like, yeah, maybe Omarion is disappointing early. And where we go from there as dynasty managers is I'm making a call like week 4. If Omarion is like, 8 carries, 7 carries, 6 carries, and he's got like 30, 20, 40 yards, it's like, and this guy maybe traded up for Omarion Hampton. It's like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, I thought I was getting this grade A, like, right, like full time. And does he suck? Like, is he bad in practice? Why is he not getting any run? Make that call and just say, like, hey, man, I'll give you a 26 first for Omarion Hampton and just see what happens. Like, I think that's where we end up is some of these people are very impatient. Maybe you could sell off a veteran running back for Omarion Hampton, like that kind of thing. Just make that call after a couple weeks when Omarion doesn't have those gaudy numbers right away in his rookie season.
Yeah, there's two parts to this, and I agree with both of them, which is that I also think Omarion Hampton starts the season slower than people want to admit right now, and I think it's a twofold reason. I think there is a Najee Harris element, which honestly concerns me less than I think Hampton's going to have a learning curve in the NFL.
Sure,
Like,
that's also fair. Playing in the ACC and then
yeah, like I think these running backs that don't show you like exceptional vision, I think have a tougher time adjusting to the league because when the game speeds up and they don't have that like, elite instinctual ability to read the play, then that's where you see guys kind of come out the gate a little choppy. It's not something that I'm concerned about with him in terms of like, I don't know, it's a sink or swim, buddy. Like if you're not showing it in a few weeks, like I guess it's over. It's not that at all. It's just the fact that I don't expect him to be an Ashton Jeanty where he can walk in week 1 and I'm like, oh yeah, like you're an NFL running back like today. Like you like he can be a top 5 running back like you already said. So I'm not sure where I think Hampton finishes in terms of points this year. I do think he will be, he will be worth that draft spot by the end of the year.
yeah.
But the second part of this is the, getting in on it early. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately because man, I feel like dynasty players are getting smarter. And I think it's because Dynasty is just more popular now and there's so many like resources out there and there's so many, tweets every day is like and you're getting this, constant stream of information about players and so you kind of like have a better idea of what's happening. But I've seen right when I was thinking that, like right at the moment where I was like, you know what, I think it's over. I think like the classic like buy low is starting to become like extinct. Then I started seeing things that I was like, oh my God, no, we're
Yeah.
there is still this kind of stuff happening in leagues. So yes, I agree with you. If you are playing in one of those leagues and you have those sorts of managers that may not be entirely plugged in or may not,
All it takes is one.
right, and may not have the patience and understand the greater, sum of the situation, then yes, of course, always slide in and see what it costs to get Omarion Hampton if week 6 rolls around and he hasn't popped off yet.
Yeah, the second part of my take is that Hampton will seize hold down the stretch. I think that we all kind of feel that, and the action is if somebody feels that he's going to be that guy from week 1. I just think it's going to happen. The rookie, it happens a lot with rookie wide receivers. You see, like the second half of the season, they'll pop. I think that's what you'll see out of Hampton.
All right, so my next take is about a running back.
Here we go.
I went on Fantasy Pros today to just like see the lay of the land in terms of Dynasty rookie ADP so that I could formulate some takes based off of value and what's happening out there in the world. And I'm not even sure I believe this. Like, I don't know how Fantasy Pros gets their data, but RJ Harvey is currently at an ADP of 6 on Fantasy Pros.
Oh my God.
So, like, I don't know where that number comes from, but what I do know is that there is not an insignificant percentage of Dynasty players that will pull up a Fantasy Pros or something of the, something like that at their rookie draft to like use as their compass. Yeah. Like, not necessarily like, oh, I'm drafting off of this like verbatim, but they're going to use that as like kind of their guide point. Like, oh, well, right. I should be thinking about this guy, and this guy here. And if that player is opening Fantasy Pros right now and seeing RJ Harvey at number 6, that tells me that a lot of leagues right now are drafting RJ Harvey somewhere in this range. And I'm here to say that RJ Harvey's current ADP, if it is indeed 6, is the biggest overcorrection to a draft landing spot since Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And it will be viewed in the same light by the end of this season. And I'm not even trying to say that I think RJ Harvey's going to have an abysmal year and he's going to be a nothing player. Like, there is no chance, in my opinion, that he can live up to a 6 ADP. He is going ahead of players like Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Emeka Egbuka, and both of the top tight ends. Like, that is insanity. And it's not that long ago that we had this happen, and CEH went all the way up the board because he was tied to Mahomes, and he went in the first round, and he was in the Chiefs offense, and he was going 102 at the latest, sometimes 101 over Jonathan Taylor. And that turned out to be a horrible mistake, and I think this is also a horrible mistake.
Yeah, I'm with you here. Like you said, it's not that, the landing spot isn't good or the player isn't good. It's just like 6 is so high in this good of a running back class. Like, sure, like volume is king for a running back, and we champion that here at Camp Dynasty, but also like talent matters so much. And while RJ Harvey is talented, there are a lot of really talented running backs in this class, and taking him at 6 feels irresponsible almost. And I'm ready to look back on this and be like, oh, well, that was kind of dumb. But like, I feel pretty confident that there's a lot of guys I'd rather take than RJ Harvey at 6. And you're totally right that there are people that are going to pull up, consensus rankings and consensus ADP, and they're going to see Harvey really high, and maybe they'll be at like 9 in like a super flex draft, and they'll be like, well, I got to take Harvey here. Like, he's supposed to go 3 picks ago. And like, I don't know. I'd be pretty nervous about that. But yeah, volume is king, and people are going to overreact to a landing spot. That's if there's, we just kind of talked about this with impatience and overreaction with performance on the field. When you see somebody go and you're like, man, that's a good landing spot. We needed somebody on the Broncos. And, if it was one of my guys, if like Devin Neal was here, I might be thinking the same thing, but I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, you and I have been very transparent in all of this that if RJ Harvey does the thing that so many people believe that he will do in this Broncos offense, then we will be sitting here saying, yeah, we were wrong. Like, we
Yeah.
are not afraid to own that. And,
I owned it with Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix.
yeah. I mean,
I mean,
it's just, it's a process thing. And I can't
yeah,
get on board with this process. Like,
yeah,
maybe it works out for Harvey and the folks who draft him this year, but I've seen this happen so many times, and it is the exception when things like this turn out to go as well as, we should take this player at number 6.
yeah. I think that what is Kyron Williams the last time that this was like a thing where a guy that like maybe wasn't yeah, he didn't even go high in drafts though.
No, I'm
It was just
thinking,
like a good landing spot.
yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like CEH is the obvious one that jumps
But
out.
when did it work out? Is
I
what
would,
I'm wondering.
well, I mean, I would say like, would you lump Bucky in that category?
But he didn't have like a jump like this.
No.
Like I'm just wondering like when people overreact and then we're correct.
I see.
Yeah, I just feel like this is such an overcorrection to where he was then, and like I just can't think of a time where that worked out for managers.
Yeah. No,
I don't mean to put you on the spot,
no,
but
no,
like
no. Nothing
just
jumps
food
out.
for thought.
Yeah, nothing
Food for
jumps
thought
out.
for the
If
viewer.
anybody has a clear picture of that, or if anyone's screaming at the screen right now, like
I'd love
it's
to
this
know.
guy,
I'm actually curious because I can't think of one off the top of my head. And if you're like, dude, this is like
yeah,
clear as day. It was
put it
this
in
guy.
the comments.
Yeah.
All right, your next take.
My next take, Tetairoa McMillan.
Let's go.
Keep going up the top of the board. He's gonna be so sick on the Panthers. That's all I got. We got so this is tied to a Bryce Young pick. I think Bryce Young is gonna be good next year. Bryce Young, 226 yards, touchdown and a half down the stretch, and that's not like eye popping numbers. But given what he was doing his rookie year and the parts of the first half of last year, it's a huge improvement, and that's shown by a growth in confidence, a growth in trusting his O line, which has been pumped with resources by the Panthers front office. The wide receivers looked better down the stretch. Dave Canales going into his second year with this team, and McMillan, number 8 pick, coming into this wide receiver room that has like a cast of characters, but like nobody that matters in a fantasy sense. We have like Thielen who pops off every once in a while. Xavier Legette is fun and scored a couple touchdowns, but like I think McMillan coming in like sets this wide receiver room into something that makes sense. Because you have your number one, your alpha, the guy that you can trust whenever. You have Legette that can that can pop around and like sit in the slot sometimes as your big slot, go to your Z, be like kind of a gadgety guy. And then you have Thielen that can, fill in where he needs to. Jalen Coker, who's a fun player that you can pop in kind of, as your Z or your Y. So I think like having McMillan here makes that wide receiver room make so much more sense, gives Bryce a player that he can trust, when in doubt, if he's getting that pressure, you can just kind of give McMillan a chance and it can work. So I am just kind of excited for the Panthers for the first time in a long time because of the improvement that you saw out of Bryce down the stretch, and then bringing in a dynamic player like this to kind of make sense of what this is going to look like going into next year in terms of a passing game.
Yeah. Speaking of a journey with a player, I mean, Tetairoa McMillan, what a journey this year for him. I mean, from being one of our top players last summer. I think my number one player heading into the season was probably like your three, or I think you had the
Yeah, I think
running
he's my
backs above
3.
them, but he was your number one wide receiver, I believe. Like it to go from that to whatever happened in the draft process where everybody sort of fell out
Which
of
we never
love,
bought.
which we never bought, and it was never real. I mean, that the he's falling into the 20s thing, like it was, in my opinion and your opinion, like that was never gonna be a reality, because the player was just too good, and the Panthers were our perfect match on perfect matches. That fell out of favor because they were going to go defense. It was always defense for the Panthers. And what did they do? They shocked everybody on draft night and took this player. And I'm with you. I think not only is it a great spot for this player, it's a great spot for everybody else in the room. I know that Xavier Leggett did not have necessarily a great rookie year last year. I think he left a lot of folks, wanting more, especially if you took him at like 12 or something in your draft. He was, yes, like you said, he was kind of a raw player on one of the worst offenses, for most of the season, and playing out of position occasionally at the X spot for them. And I think now you have this, bona fide X wide receiver coming in with McMillan. That allows Leggett to play at the Z, play in the slot, like do the things that he is best at, and hopefully grow his game and elevate everybody else around. Jalen Coker, very promising year last year as well. Like this wide receiver group that they have right now could be something fun, and it's all going to start with McMillan. So I'm very excited to see how this season turns out for McMillan. Like, I'm not sure I'm ready to say like he's going to walk in and be like, a wide receiver 1 as a rookie or anything like that. But I do think we're going to get, a lot of signs of promise that year 2, year 3, it'll be his time before long.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to put any like numbers or expectations or anything like hard on this take. Just he's going to be sick. It's going to be awesome to watch. There's going to be some awesome highlights. It's going to just be cool to watch the Panthers, and that's not something you could say for a while since Cam Newton's there. The first time.
Yeah. We don't talk about the second time.
No. PJ Walker had a cool moment. I don't think you're getting up for PJ Walker's games.
Oh, the Panthers, since that Super Bowl, since the Cam Newton glory days, it has been they have been in desperate need of some help, and they're maybe going to start getting it. All right, well, we're going to talk about another first round talent, one of the best players in this draft class, but at a different position. It's a tight end, and we're talking about Colston Loveland. Loveland, I think, is becoming what appears to be a consensus tight end 1 in this class based off of the things that I've been seeing, and it makes sense with the 10th position in the NFL draft, amazing landing spot with the offense, and a lot of parallels being drawn between Colston Loveland and Sam Laporta, not necessarily on a player-to-player basis, like a little bit of a different stature and, that sort of thing here, but in terms of the role that might happen in this Ben Johnson offense in Chicago. And my take is that Colston Loveland is going to have a good rookie season, but it will be more 2024 Sam Laporta than 2023 Sam Laporta. I don't think this is going to be the, tight end 2 or whatever he finished that season, and he's the next Travis Kelce, and we're already making him the 9999 on KTC because he's the best player of all time. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think he can have that sort of 700-yard, like 4 to 6 touchdown season like Laporta had this past year. I mean, I was kind of like trying to picture how this is going to shake out with Chicago, and I can't imagine him going higher than that, because like Keenan Allen had 117 targets last year. Those targets have to go somewhere. They didn't really add anybody, but I think when you look at how the Lions target share broke out last season, Amon-Ra had 138, Jameson Williams had 88, and Sam Laporta had 78. And I think it's pretty likely that DJ Moore could be around like that 130 plus number, because that's where he was last year in the Eberflus and whatever else offense was happening there.
Shane Waldron, baby.
He who shall not be named. But
Thomas Brown.
Yeah, there it is. That interim Thomas Brown. Yeah, the glory days. But I think DJ Moore can stay probably in the 130s. Rome Odunze had 96 targets last year. I think that goes up. I think he has to be over 100 targets this year. And if that's the case, just based off of, Ben Johnson's tendencies in terms of the passing game, I don't see Sam Laporta like being a 100 target player in this offense. Like
Colston Loveland.
Who did I say? Sam Laporta. Okay, yeah, the same thing. Colston Loveland, I don't see him getting 100 targets or like around 100 targets in this offense, just because, despite the fact that they have all of the, the 117 from Keenan, it's just that's a different offense. And this, I don't expect it to look that way this year. So I think Loveland going to have a good year, but he will not break the chart of, the tight end dynasty rankings.
Yeah, I think maybe people now are going to be desensitized to like what a good tight end season is after 2 years back-to-back Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers. And then you go to like if Colston Loveland finishes with like 700 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that's a good season. But you compare it to the last 2, and it's like, I don't love it. And even like Pitts, like 1,000 yards and 2 touchdowns, it's like, yeah, it's not gaudy fantasy numbers, but when you compare it, so I agree. I think that would be success, like a successful season as a third option on an overhauled offense, like, and a rookie tight end. That would be great, and I can absolutely see that coming. Like you said, we should see DJ Moore and Rome Odunze gather most of those targets. Odunze was the 9th pick just last year, so I don't think they're going to be like, yeah, Loveland, you're a number 2 guy. I don't see that coming, but I could absolutely see him being a like productive number 3 receiver for this team for sure.
All right, your 4th take.
My 4th take is also about a tight end. We're going Tyler Warren, who's the probably consensus number 2 tight end now, and that's because of expectations needing to be tempered a little bit. I think that kind of happened after the draft already, mostly because the Bears was a good landing spot. Loveland went higher in the draft. The Colts is a little bit of a weird landing spot. And that's kind of where I landed. And like, that's why we got to temper our expectations a little bit, because he had a very specialized role at Penn State. I think that's something that can't be ignored. He was the featured piece of that offense as their the Broncos may call it a joker. I don't know what you want to call it. Like, you get him the ball any way possible. I think he moves into more of a traditional tight end role with the Colts. I think there are absolutely going to be times where he does fun stuff, and like, you're going to see him take direct snaps, all that, but it's not going to be close to the volume it was at Penn State. It's not going to be like, every, like, once a drive, he's taking a snap. Like, that's not going to be, it'll be like once every couple games. So I think he moves into a much more traditional tight end role, and I think it's going to take him time to adjust to doing that. I think it's going to take, and also like the stats are going to be, it's going to be hard to reflect how well he's doing, because whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, it's not likely going to be a high volume passing offense. And I've talked about that a lot, but it's going to be a lot of running the ball, because like Dan Jones, even if you're banking on him being the quarterback for like your receivers, not really a great option. Like, I'd still be rooting for Anthony Richardson to win this job because there's still like a high ceiling, at least with Richardson. Whether or not the floor is like exists, I don't know. But like, at least you can hope that things will get better. With Daniel Jones, you kind of know what you got, and it's not much. So we hope for Anthony Richardson. We hope for improvement because he can, I mean, rip it over the middle of the field at least and get the ball in Tyler Warren's hands. So regardless, it's probably not going to be a high volume passing offense this year, either quarterback. And so the numbers are not going to be pretty. And I think like people might look at it and be like, well, Tyler Warren, what's going on here? And fair or not, I think people are going to be worried about Tyler Warren.
I agree. I almost had a take regarding Warren, and that it would be that he was going to be probably the best buy out of the first round players from this year, because I think everything you just said is, incredibly real, and it's a reality that I think, like, maybe it's kind of already baked in. Like, maybe people are already a little bit nervous about what this year is going to look like, and that's why it seems like it's been so easy for Loveland to kind of take over that number one spot, and maybe Warren's falling down the board just a little bit. I mean, if we're going off of Fantasy Pros, like, the tight ends were being like pushed down the board significantly, and that I didn't understand at all. But like KTC, even, like, we're talking, I think Warren at like number 11 or something like that right now, which I think's a excellent value for him in a rookie draft. But that being said, I could totally see after this season he gets that sort of, well, didn't do much, and this offense, like, they're not really throwing much, and Richardson didn't really take that step. So, like, what is this going to look like moving forward? And then people kind of talk themselves out of it. And then maybe even you start kind of letting the doubts creep into your mind of like, maybe it's not going to get better. But I mean, I think still a player of this talent level, you just have to bet on him to make the most out of his situation. And if it's not this year, trust that with a year under his belt in the NFL, that he can figure it out and take a step forward and try to elevate an offense that might not be, designed for him to be the next great thing at tight end, but, certainly should be one of the better tight ends we have in the NFL.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And like, things change so much year to year in the NFL. And so you could see some real development from this team and like the passing game in general. And like, I know that I read the tweet about Shane Steichen talking about Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones too. Okay. It's May. Let's relax. We'll be okay. Hold the line on Anthony Richardson, folks.
Yeah, if we're in the business of reading May tweets like the gospel, then Pat Bryant should be going in the first round right now. Have you been seeing the Pat Bryant?
Dude, I, not to get too sidetracked, but I saw somebody, they're like, I can't believe I just got Pat Bryant at 201. And I'm like, people are taking Pat Bryant. Seriously. They're like, people are insane for letting me get him at 203. And like, the replies are all people being like, I just got him at 204. And I'm like, yeah. Why wouldn't you get him at 2? Like, everybody behind you is happy that you took him at 204. So
my God,
you did this on
everybody
Sleeper
listened to Sleeper Court and they were like, holy shit, I should draft him at 203, shouldn't I? And I'm like, that's not what I said. That's not what I was saying.
It's a 112 kind of player right there.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. I thought I was joking, and then you were like, no, he's going at 201. Bryant Hive. Like, okay, all right.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about another couple of wide receivers that should be going somewhere in the, what we now have learned is the Pat Bryant range, which is 12 to 208 or whatever. So I'm looking at the Ohio State guys. Or Iowa State guys. I'm not going to let us get out of here one final time without talking about these Iowa State boys, because
Yep.
it was a fun journey with them popping up this season. You put Jaden Higgins on the radar, and shortly after that, we were talking about Jalen Noel as well. And I'm here to tell you that right now, based off of where they're going in rookie drafts and based off of their just wide receiver dynasty ranking, these are both going to be players that have increased their value by the end of this season. Right now, Higgins is going at as the rookie 15. This is KTC. So rookie 15 and wide receiver 37. And Jalen Noel is the rookie 20 and the wide receiver 52. So, I mean, I'm all for being cautious, and I do want to be cautious with these guys. I mean, this is a second round and a third round draft pick. There are over 200 targets missing from this Texans offense, and there is nobody there to fill them except the guys that they just took in the draft. I mean, unless you think that John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson, I don't know.
Talking to a big John Mechie
Yeah.
fan.
I mean, hey, Hutchinson, he's got like 3 years ahead of them. He's Iowa State too, so obviously that's how that works. He's an NFL vet now. He'll be on the field over them. But I just really can't imagine a scenario in which both of these guys aren't getting significant snaps like pretty quickly on during the season. And if that's the case, then they should be racking up targets. I mean, Nico Collins will be the beast. He will be the guy. He will be the unquestioned number one. That being said, there are still, 90 targets for Higgins and 70 for Noel. And that's being like conservative because we're still missing like 50 targets somewhere in there. So
Christian Kirk.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They did bring in Christian Kirk.
He'll get some targets.
That's right. My narrative's shattered.
Slot. Well, not bad.
No, I think I've said this before. I think Noel gets on the field over Christian Kirk at points this season. Like that's how much I believe in Noel. I think he's a pro-ready player. I get the size concerns, but he's not a guy that I'm sitting there like he's going to have to develop. Like I think he's a guy who can contribute right out of the gate. And maybe he doesn't get on the field right away because of Christian Kirk, but Higgins will definitely be on the field right away. And I think both of these guys are just set up to increase their value. They're going to be great second round picks for whoever gets them.
Yeah, I'm on board with this. I think like especially Noel is a really good value, and I think he'll continue to be a really good value because, I mean, Christian Kirk will play a majority of the early slot stuff in Houston. Like he's still a pretty good player. I think he's coming off a broken collarbone though, so like who knows what the timetable for that looks like. But yeah, Higgins is going to be, I mean, just good. I think he'll just be really good number 2 target for this team sooner rather than later. So like if you haven't drafted yet and like Higgins is kind of falling down the board a little bit, like I think go scoop him up because Nico Collins can't have all the targets. And like we saw how good Tank Dell was a couple of years ago. And Higgins is, I mean, going to be soaking up those targets.
All right. Your final take of the 2025 season.
IDP are people too. We touched on Travis Hunter, who's obviously the name in the IDP class, but I'm going to go to Jihaad Campbell with this one. And I'm saying he'll be a screaming buy after year 1. Campbell, first round linebacker, has the highest ADP for a rookie linebacker. I think this is the guy where if somebody needs a linebacker and they're drafting, they'll be like, I'm just going to take this guy because like This is, the Eagles took him in the first round. He's got high ADP if they're not dialed in to the, because like depending on what you need, you'll get different things. Because Jihaad Campbell, I think, is going to be waiting behind Zach Bond and be rotating with Nakobe Dean for snaps in his rookie year. And that's if Nakobe Dean is healthy enough to play early on. Because like maybe Campbell will be on the field beside Zach Bond, and then this is kind of null. But if and when Nakobe Dean gets healthy, him and Dean will be rotating if Jihaad Campbell sees the field at all in lieu of Nakobe Dean. So he'll be pretty big play dependent. He won't finish as a rookie linebacker one. And maybe people will be like, this isn't what I drafted him in the third round. Like I thought that I was getting this like pro ready. Like why would they take him in the first round? Like why isn't this Quay Walker of a few years ago? And I think like circumstances are Zach Bond is going to get a shitload of tackles. And like, I don't know if like the sustained statistics are going to be there for Campbell. So I think that you're going to be able to acquire him if he has kind of a shaky, well, I wouldn't even say shaky, but like if the tackle numbers aren't absurd and like people aren't getting that big rookie season that they're hoping for.
And there's also the question about what position will he play, period, because there's been those reports about him potentially playing edge for them, and they view him as an edge and all of that. So I think it is a complicated player right now because there's a lot of unknowns. He's hurt. I don't know that I don't even know that he participated in the rookie mini camp. I don't think he did. So like there's that element to it. There's a lot of things stacking up against Campbell for this to be a year in which he underwhelms versus his, ADP right now. And we had him ranked somewhere in the middle of the second round. I think if you're taking him there, I feel like it's pretty clear that you're not going to get that return in year one. Like you're drafting him as a long-term, you're hoping by year two you start to see that player start to come to life. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly that I think this is going to be a more of a slow burn, and we don't even like slow burn players on offense. When you get a slow burn IDP, it's over. Yeah, go hit that person's line and see what you can get them for.
Yeah, because and I think Dean's on the last year of his deal too. So like, if you're taking a linebacker in the first round, they just extended Zach Bond, so they're not going to replace Zach Bond with him. But Dean was very fantasy relevant when he was healthy last year. So like Campbell slots into that role and they move on from Dean because they have Campbell. Like I think you're locked and loaded next year.
My final take for 2025.
The final take.
The final take before we sign it off is also about an IDP.
There we go.
And it's about Mike Green. My take is that if Mike Green is getting a discount in your Dynasty rookie draft because he fell in the NFL draft, or because his name is Mike Green, and that's not very, it doesn't stand out.
Not Jihaad Campbell.
Yeah, right. He is one of the steals of the entire draft. And I'm saying if you are getting him at any point after the early third, you are hitting a gold mine. That is my prediction. Because we know why he fell in the NFL draft. It wasn't necessarily due to his ability as a player. And his ability as a player is immense. This is a player that could have gone in or around the top 10 of the NFL draft. He is a developed pass rusher, a developed edge rusher with legitimate NFL pass rush repertoire, like from day one, in my opinion. And so the fact that he fell, and he fell to the Ravens, which last season, their two starting edge rushers were Odafe Owe and Kyle Van Noy. And Kyle Van Noy is 34. He will be 34 this year. So I don't know that Mike Green is like a starter out of the gate. I doubt that he is. But like Van Noy is he's been an Iron Man. He's like the guy that he's like he can't keep getting away with this. You keep dropping him in your IDP league and he keeps being fantasy relevant year after year. At some point that has to stop. And Odafe Owe like had a nice year last year. He's like a fine player. He did have kind of like a breakout season last year. We'll see what that means. But like within the next couple of years, Mike Green is a starting pass rusher for this team. And I think he becomes, one of the best edge rushers, period, in the NFL, like over the course of his rookie season. That's my hot take here.
That is hot. Leave it on the grill for a little while. Bring it out sizzling. Let everybody turn their heads while you're bringing it out to somebody. Yeah, I think, our appreciation for Mike Green's on-field play is well documented on here. I think like if everything goes as planned, like absolutely, like, he should be going mid-second if he didn't like go to a small school. If he did this at Tennessee, if he did this at Alabama, if he did this at Georgia, if he did this at Ohio State, like he would be right around where Abdul Carter's going. But they do it at Marshall, and it's a different story. So, I totally agree. Like you're gonna have to be a little bit patient, but I don't even know if it's gonna take that long because the talent is there. It's just like, will it translate from small school to NFL? And that's the biggest question we have with a few players, and that's kind of why he's down the board a little bit. And I think he absolutely does. Like he's got a deep bag, like you said, and it freak athlete. Like so, I'm excited to see it. I'm gonna try to scoop him up in all the drafts that have IDP slots that I'm in. So yeah, here we go. I'm gonna see if he's available in one of these leagues. Actually.
All right. Well, that's it. 10 final takes of 2025. Some memories along the way. The journey that was this season with Ashton, Jeanty, Tetairoa, McMillan, Travis Hunter. I mean, this was an awesome draft class. 2024 might go down as a historic draft class in my opinion. This one, like, it's hard to follow that up, and this one did a pretty good job of it, I would say. So we had a lot of fun with this group. There's elite talents in elite talent at the top, at least maybe a game-breaking talent up there as well. So we will watch it all unfold, and we will certainly talk about these players and their NFL journeys, which is what it's all about at the end of the day, on All Grown Up this fall. But for right now, it is time to move on to 2026.
It's kind of beautiful. It's a little bit sad. It's a little bittersweet, but from saying it's a like flaming hot take that Ashton Jeanty will be a top 5 running back or a top 5 player in the class.
Yeah.
To where we are today, it's been a nice journey with this class. It's been beautiful, and I'm happy to be at the draft with you, not this Saturday but next Saturday, to draft some of these guys into our home league teams, and we'll put our money where our mouth is a little bit. But till then, it's time to move on to 2026.
Yeah, Ashton Jeanty, come home in 2 weeks' time.
That's right.
And
you have 101.
It's not my pick, so hey, don't look at me.
It's not my pick.
I'm not the 101, but all right. Well, I also would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to everybody who joined us on this journey that was the 2025 Dynasty Rookie Cycle. It was a hell of a year, and honestly, you know, this was a great year because I think we got to connect with more people than we have before.
Yeah.
We had, recurring commenters. We had sort of like little debates going on, little lighthearted like arguments happening about RJ Harvey and things like that. But what was amazing about all of that is that this is all, designed to be a conversation. This whole process of, the NFL draft and dynasty rookie drafts and dynasty in general should be about conversation, and it should never be about, I'm right, this is my opinion, and, this is the law of the land. And I think some people approach it with that, sort of a mentality. And you and I have always, from the beginning, this thing was built on not being like that. We have our opinions about players. They're formed from a lot of like hard work to get to that point, but they are just opinions at the end of the day. And we love hearing about other folks' opinions about these players, because that's what makes this all worth it. It's all about the journey. It's all about the conversation. It's all about the fun that you have along the way with your league mates and with everybody else. And so we love having that little sense of community here. And this was a great year for that at Camp Dynasty. So I, truly thank everybody who tuned in with us at any point this season. But if you're here every week, I mean, that's incredible stuff. So we appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason that, it's called the Dynasty community, and it can get toxic and weird and like aggressive, and people kind of plant their feet. And I think we're both pretty secure with our takes and how we feel about players, and also very secure in being wrong. Like
Yeah.
when we're proven wrong, like we'll come on here and say it. Like that's okay. So we appreciate like you guys. Like you're the maybe not the reason that we do it, but like the motivation behind it to like keep doing this year after year is the growth that we see and the interaction that we have with you guys. And so here's to season 4, which should be, you could maybe expect more from us in the content department. Who knows? I don't want to make any promises,
Yeah.
but we're working on stuff behind the scenes always to try to make more for you guys, because you guys, interact with us, and it's been, it's a relationship that we have with you.
Always. Yep. Always looking for ways to give back and make this thing even, bigger and better. So we got a few things up our sleeves potentially for season 4. We'll leave it at that for the time being. But for right now, we will take 1 week off, our one vacation of the
To
year,
grind tape.
to grind fucking tape, and to come back in 2 weeks' time and kickstart another beautiful journey with the 2026 class of campers and season 4 of Camp Dynasty. So we will be starting, I'll let the cat out of the bag. We will be starting with wide receivers for 2026. So come ready. It's a fun wide receiver group. I got a lot of names on my watch list that I'm excited to dive into and unpack on the first episode, Colin, of season 4, coming pretty damn quick.
So thank you for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week. We'll see you in 2 weeks.